Good morning and welcome. We're so glad to have you with us this morning for our monthly Learn and Grow series. This month, we are going to talk to you about how to talk to people about giving. We have Dustin Cooper with Horizon Stewardship with us today. My name is Sarah Diamond with the Kansas Area United Methodist Foundation. Now I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce our staff. We have Gloria Marcus with us. She is our Director of Finance. We have Joanna Trapp. She's our Communications Associate. And now I'd like to introduce to you Dustin Petz, our President and CEO. Dustin?
Thank you so much, Sarah. My name is Dustin Petz, and I want to just say a couple words about the foundation. The United Methodist Foundation has been around since the mid-'60s and serves United Methodist churches and agencies, institutions across the state of Kansas. And we care for investments in a sustainable and socially responsible way, as well as caring for many legacy gifts where donors have chosen to partner with us to care for a part of their estate in a planned gift that we then can use to support their local church or other ministries that they care about. And a large part of our work also is helping our churches become financially healthy, to have the resources that they need to do ministry and to fulfill their calling, their mission to make disciples of Jesus Christ and transform the world around us. Which is really why this topic for today is so pertinent for our pastors and for many of our lay leaders as they think about how to help their congregations thrive, how to have the resourcing to do the ministries that God is calling them to be about. So it is our pleasure to have Reverend Dustin Cooper join with us in this presentation. He is a member of the Missouri Annual Conference, where he served as a local pastor for 25 years. He led his churches through 6 different capital campaigns to renovate, for land purchase, for new construction, and for debt retirement. Over the last 16 years, Dustin has been serving as a consultant for churches, not only for capital campaigns, but also coaching on annual campaigns and growing generosity. He's a senior vice president and partner at Horizon Stewardship. His passion has been and continues to be helping pastors and church leaders respond to fulfilling the vision of making disciples of Jesus Christ in their church's ministry. Dustin lives in Overland Park, Kansas with his wife, Ruth. They have 2 grown children, Corinne and Greg, and he and Ruth have 3 beautiful grand girls. Dustin is a graduate of Missouri State University and Candler School of Theology at Emory University. And when he's not working with churches, he enjoys traveling, yard work, and going to the gym. And Dustin's also a certified scuba diver. And so we are super excited to have you join with us and to present today. Let me offer a prayer as we begin. Gracious God, we give you thanks for the amazing ministries that you have begun in and through our churches and ministries across this state. We give you thanks also for the resources that you've entrusted to us. Help us to be responsible, help us to use them in ways of generosity to make a difference in the world around us. And help us to learn and grow in our ability to invite others to use the resources that they have been entrusted to make a difference in a ministry, a common purpose, a vision that is before us. Help us to know how to grow in that awareness and to invite people, call people, as you have called us, to use those resources to change lives, to make an impact, to make disciples, to further the kingdom of God. Gracious God, pour out your blessing today as we learn upon Dustin as he presents. Help us to be faithful with the resources that we have and live into that vision that you've placed in our hearts. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Welcome, Dustin.
Thank you, Dustin. Thanks for the opportunity to be a part of this webinar, and to Sarah for all the coordination that she's provided in getting us to this place. It's good to have each of you here. As Dustin said, I'm United Methodist clergy and have a real passion for generosity and seeing how it makes a difference in people's lives and in ministries for churches, and glad to share this with you. I want to begin with a polling. I guess 3 questions I would like for you to answer as we begin, just to give a sense of who's in the room, and a couple of other items. So you'll see 3 questions there in front of you on your screen, and would like for you to answer those. The first is just, what is your average attendance of your church pre-COVID? Know that during the last 14 months, keeping attendance has been complicated. So we can just kind of look at pre-COVID, and it'd be good just to see who's in the room in terms of church size. The second question is, and you can go ahead and begin filling these out. Do you know your giving list? And by that, I mean how much people are giving and the names, so both the names and the amounts of those who are giving. You'll want to scroll down and to get to the third question. And that is, what is your personal comfort level when it comes to talking with people about money and giving? Our focus today is not about preaching and public talking about money, but personal conversations. So from a 1 being scares me to death, I've never done it, to a 10, I could do it all day long, I love it. Where would you rate yourself in terms of your own personal comfort level? So we'll give you a moment to answer those 3 questions, and then Joanna will put the results on the screen for us to look at. 100 to 150, 150 to 300, looks like the 60% of you are in churches of those size, and then a couple of larger churches, and a couple of churches between 50 and 100. So a good cross section, which is good, and that is representative of your conference. 57%, a little more than half, do not know your giving list, the names and the amounts of who give, and 43% do. Your comfort level, from a 3 to a 5, 7, 8, 9. So several of you feel some comfort, and which would suggest to me that you've had experience in having these conversations and are looking to grow in that and look for more suggestions. And then some are not as comfortable as they would like to be. So, well, thank you for sharing that. We know talking about money is a difficult thing for pastors, and I hear that from pastors, not only my own colleagues, whenever I was in the local church, but in pastors and churches I've worked with over the last 16 years. And there are a lot of different reasons, and I hear different reasons from pastors about why having these conversations is hard or uncomfortable. We live in a culture that teaches money as a private matter. And that's especially true if you are raised in a family where money has secrecy around it. That was the family in which I was raised. We never talked about money, how much income we had coming into the house. Did not talk about how financial decisions were made. We're just told, well, we can't afford that. I saw checks being written to the church, but never knew how much. And so when there's that kind of secrecy around money in your family of origin, that carries over into adulthood, and we have to learn to move beyond that, and to become making a serious effort to become more comfortable. There's a fear of being misunderstood. Well, people think I just care about their money if I talk to them, and there's always the fear of that complaint. Well, the church only cares about my money, or all the church talks about is money, even though you mentioned it one time in the last 4 months. Self-interest. Pastors have said, well, my salary comes from people's generosity, so I'm afraid if I talk to them about giving, that they'll think I'm just after a raise, and so that makes them uncomfortable approaching the subject. The fear of showing favoritism, that especially if you know the giving list, well, people think that you're having favorites because some give more than others. Other reasons include, next slide, fear of failure. What if I do a campaign, annual or capital, and it fails? What if I ask someone to give and they say no? Power, money and power go together. And so entering into an arena where there is power that can be exercised through resources can be uncomfortable. Personal struggles. I've had pastors share that that they were struggling with a lot of student loans, with debt, having trouble paying their bills. It impacted their ability to give, and it was just not comfortable to talk to other people about money and giving when their own personal financial lives were not where they would like them to be. So those are all different reasons I've heard, but I would say the number one reason, and this would be across the board, whether it's a pastor just out of seminary or someone who's been serving for 40 years or someone serving a smaller church or a larger church, the number one reason I hear is lack of training and knowledge. I've never been taught how to do this. We did not learn this in seminary. And so I just don't have the tools. So my hope today is that by the end of this time, that you feel that you have some more confidence and have some tools and some directions about how to engage in these conversations. There are a lot of issues happening in the world today that impact your church and create challenges. Giving to nonprofit organizations, we're at a record high in 2019. We don't know about 2020 yet. That data will be coming out later this summer. So we're all very interested to see what happened in 2020. But in 2019, more dollars was given to nonprofits than ever before. And yet giving to the church dropped to 29%. It's been dropping ever since the 70s. At one point, 75% of all charitable dollars went to the church. We still receive the largest share, but that share is shrinking every year. And from 2018 and 19, it shrank almost 4%. All you have to do, if you have a mainline typical church congregation, is to look outside, look over the congregation and worship, and you see that your most loyal givers are aging, and that the new givers, new people are not invested at the same level. When you have a long-term giver who dies or goes into care facilities or moves away to be with closer to family, and you lose those gifts, it takes about 5 new families to compensate for that one gift that is lost. So as a result, the church is becoming more dependent upon fewer donors who are generous and who give to the church. And that's complicated by the fact that there's more competition. There are more and more nonprofits every year being formed, and they survive because they are talking to people in your churches, asking them to give to their organizations in addition or in lieu of their church. There are other issues because of COVID, and you've been hearing this, I'm sure, that 32% have stopped attending worship at all during COVID, online, in person. 14% are now going to a different church. 18%, in addition to watching you, they're watching another church online. This one is interesting. Only 35% of people who are actively engaged with their pre-COVID church exclusively, which means 65% are either not engaged at all, or they've gone to another church, or they're watching someone else in addition to your church. And we all have that uncertainty. Will people come back? How quickly will they come back? Even as we begin reopening, there's still that big question of how many people have we lost, how many will return. And yet operational expenses continue to rise, even though this past year we had some of those be lower because we were shut down. But we anticipate that those expenses will continue to grow. And so as a result of that, there is good news that we are positioned as a church to increase giving and grow financial leaders. We have something that nonprofits do not have. We have ongoing regular opportunities to connect with our supporters, whether it's online or as we move back into in-person worship. We get to see them. We get to have conversations with them before and after worship, other opportunities, or through individual conversations that we will be talking about here in a moment. Nonprofits may see their donors once a year at a gala or at a sit-down meeting. So we are positioned well if we take advantage of this opportunity. And a key to this is having conversations with your supporters around the topics of money and giving and generosity. 5 disciplines of financially thriving churches that at Horizons that we have created as a way to visualize how churches are able to grow in giving. And at the core is vision. People give not to pay bills. They give to a vision where lives are going to be changed, where impact is going to be happening, and where their dollars are going to be best invested. Now, I understand that older members, the silent generation, they give institutionally and they will give to pay bills. But when you're looking at every generation behind them, having a vision for why they should give to you is becoming more and more critical. So with that vision, there are 5 disciplines that we work with churches, whether it's an annual campaign, a capital campaign, whether it's just coaching to increase generosity. And we're going to touch on all 5 of these. Keep it spiritual, tell your ministry story, build donor relationships, and we'll spend most of our time there, making the ask and measuring effectiveness. So those are the 5 disciplines that what we see happening in churches that are thriving financially. So let's look at keep it spiritual. Discipleship is the foundation of generosity. I believe at the very core that people will grow in giving out of a spiritual journey. I hear people say all the time, well, we can't ask them to give because they have a young family, or because they have student loan debt, or because their kids are in college, or because they've just retired. And there certainly is a financial aspect to giving, but growing in generosity is always going to be a spiritual journey before it is financial. There are people in all stages of life who give and who are generous because of that spiritual understanding that this is a part of their discipleship. It's what is a part of being a follower of Jesus in this day and age. I believe that generosity changes hearts, and that as people grow in their generosity, something changes, and that change is within themselves, their own hearts, their own understanding of life, their own values. Clayton Smith wrote a book, Propel. If you've not read that, it's a good book, would recommend it. And he has one nugget in there that I have picked out that I use again and again. It's not what we want from people, it's what we want for them. I think part of the issue that we have in the church today about why people resist hearing about money and worship and complain about the annual money sermon, as they often refer to it as, or asking and preaching about money, is because the primary message that has been given over the years has been, we don't have enough money, we can't pay our bills, you need to give more. And that's been the primary message that in general, many in the church have been hearing, and the one that has been provided for them. People are not motivated to take care of someone else's bills, even within their own church. They may give a time or two in a crisis moment, but if it's crisis to crisis to crisis, they're going to begin to wonder whether that's a good place for their resources. What Clayton is suggesting, and totally agree with this, that what we're really wanting is not their money to pay our bills. We are really wanting them to grow in their faith, in their discipleship, and a realization of how generosity will have a transformative impact in their lives, that they're going to be stronger people of faith, that they're going to be happier with life, and they're going to have that sense of fulfillment in a way that is going to be, again, transformative. So having conversations with people begins with this sense that it's not what we're wanting from them, it's really what we want for them. Having a theology of stewardship is critical. Joel Michael, another partner with Horizons, has written a book, Crafting a Theology of Stewardship. I would encourage you to read it. You can get it for less than $5 on Kindle through Amazon. But I would encourage you to write down 1 or 2 paragraphs about what do you believe about money? What are your core positions, your core understandings of where faith and money are connected? Having a solid theology and perspective and generosity and stewardship will give you a framework from which to have conversations with others. Without a well thought through theology of generosity, you're going to fall prey to many of those fears and anxieties that make talking about money uncomfortable. But coming from a core place of a biblical understanding of generosity and how that this conversation is as much as what we want for people as it is anything else, will really create a groundwork for your conversations. The second item, and we're going to spend a lot of time here, is building donor relationships. Your relationship with all of your donors is critical, and they're sacred, and we want to make sure that we tend to them and that we cultivate them and that we are grateful for them. Keys to building these relationships. Number one is knowing who your givers are. And we're going to have a whole webinar on whether or not a pastor should know the giving list. If that's something you want to pursue in the Q&A, put that in the chat. I'd be glad to talk further about this. But for this point right here, we just want to say that this is a key to building relationships, being authentic, being vision focused, and having that intentional engagement. These conversations, sometimes they happen organically, but more and more they happen because you set up an appointment and you engage with them for the purpose of building a relationship with your donors. Seeing yourself as a CFO is also very key. The chief financial officer, the chief fundraising officer, however you want to use that those initials. And I know pastors, we can hesitate to put that business image of being a CFO and wearing that. But the truth is, there's no one in your church who can have a greater impact on cultivating generosity and having conversations with people about their giving and about their generosity and doing that ask than you as the pastor. We may not like it, we may resist it, it may make us uncomfortable and anxious, but it is still the truth that you have more opportunity and more impact than anyone else. And so seeing yourself as the one who is that CFO of your church is also a good perspective that for you to include in that statement of theology. So in looking at your donors, one thing that I would suggest to you is that equally does not equal equitably. We sometimes hear, well, we've got to treat everybody the same. That's an argument for not knowing the giving list. Well, if I know what people give, I may treat them differently. The truth is, we don't treat people differently already in ministry. You give more time and attention to a family that's going through a hard time, that's having struggles in life, than you do with a family where everything is going well. And that's how it should be. And when it comes with on how to have conversations with your donors, one size does not fit all. In your church, you have three groups. You have the one, these would be your high capacity donors, the few, the financial leaders, the 20% that gives and does the 80%, and then the many, the 80% who does and gives the 20. We cannot treat all of these in the same way if we want to grow and cultivate generosity. So let's look at each one of these categories. Your high capacity donors, who are they? Obviously, they're people with high income and net worth. They may or may not be a financial leader. They may be your number one, number two giver. They may not even be on your list or be way down your giving list. They may or may not be engaged. They could be your lay leader and people who are actively engaged, or they may be people you see 3 or 4 times a year. They may have another home somewhere else that they spend part of the year, or they're in their businesses, they're traveling and away a lot. So they may or may not be actively engaged with your church, but they give an average of 8% of their income to 5 to 8 organizations. So they are generous and they do give. The question is, do they give to you? Are you one of those 5 to 8 organizations? And if they're giving to 5 to 8 organizations, you can assume that they're being asked by 20 to 30 organizations. They do not say yes to every ask. They are basing places where they give based on relationships and whether they agree and are connected to the values, to the missions and the vision of that organization. They're not going to give money that does not feed their passion and their heart. So they're being asked many times to give, but they're going to choose, and what they choose to give to is going to be based on relationships. Do they know the people who are running that organization? Do they have a connection with that organization? Do they believe in what that organization is doing? They also want to be known. Now, that is not the same as saying, I want to be recognized and I want to have my name on a plaque and I want everybody to know my giving. They want to be known by you. They want to be known by the organizations that they are giving to. I was doing a feasibility study at a church with a $2.5 million budget, doing a huge campaign. I was doing a feasibility study and meeting with the stronger supporters of the church, many of these, the high capacity donors. I met with a young family. They were 35 to 40 years old. They had 2 kids. They were off in the corner doing their homework. And they were the 3rd highest giver in this church. So they were, strong supporters. They said to me, we've been coming here for 3 years. We are here almost every Sunday. We sit in the 3rd or 4th pew from the front. We don't know if the pastor knows who we are. Now, they weren't saying, hey, we want our money to control the pastor and we want him to come and beg to us. They were saying, we would like a relationship with our pastor. And when I asked the pastor, do you know so-and-so? The response was, no, I don't know that name. Who are they? Obviously, he did not know his giving list. And this was a family who said, we would like to know our pastor and for him to know us. And so I encouraged the pastor to do that, and he did, and it began a relationship. And building that relationship is key to cultivating their support and generosity. These are people who want conversation rather than just a presentation. They'll come to a meeting or they'll read your materials, but they want a conversation about it, to ask questions and go deeper. And these are certainly people that you want to be expressing gratitude. My invitation to you would be that you schedule a visit once a month with one of these high capacity donors. I said earlier that a key to to cultivating generosity is that intentionality. These won't just happen. It is going to be because you make this a priority and you say, once a month, I'm going to call and set up an appointment to have lunch, to meet up for coffee, to go to their home, but to schedule a time just to visit with them and to get to know them. And have your secretary put that on your calendar. You do it yourself, but make this a goal to schedule once a month having a visit with one of these families. So you set up the visit. So what happens? So in these visits, this is an opportunity just get to know them. Where are you from? What do you like? What do you do for fun? And tell me about yourself. It's a chance for you to share your vision for your church. Where do you see your church in 1 year? Where do you see it in 5 years? What are your dreams? Share that with them. Share plans that you have for any major initiative, whether that's the capital campaign, a new staff position, a new ministry that you want to begin. What do you see in the future for your church? Share results of what's happening in your church now. If you've got a strong mission component or something big has happened in some initiative that you started, be ready to share with them how that's going. I see too many times in churches that we do a great job of asking for money and receiving money, but then we never tell people what we did with it and what happened afterwards. And that's the place that most all of us can grow in. But be ready to share the results of what your church is doing to change lives. Ask for their input, advice, and counsel. These are people who are often in business. They have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and they occasionally you might have somebody who wants to come and tell you how to run the show. Most typically, though, they're going to wait for you to ask for their input. They would have a lot of wisdom to offer, and at least for you to listen to. Ask them, who else should I be talking to? They may know someone in the church that is not on your radar, but they know something about them that would be someone that you would want to be engaging with, and offer gratitude for their support and what they're doing. So notice that the focus of this conversation is building relationship. In here, there's nothing about asking for money. Now, there will be times when there will be an ask, but the goal is that the first time you meet with a high capacity donor is not when you're asking for money. Once you get to know them and their hearts and their life, and you've got that authentic relationship with them, doing an ask is going to feel much more natural. I was at a time when we were hiring a new youth minister at my church, and the person we were hiring was going to require a higher salary than what we had in the budget. I didn't have any more money in the budget to allocate towards that. So I went to this family that I had many conversations with, and I knew their heart. I knew they had a heart for youth ministry. I went to them and I said, I've got this vision for this new person, and here's what I think this person can do for our youth ministry. Would you be willing to underwrite the difference between what we have in the budget and what we need to be paying them for 1 to 2 years? They said yes before I could finish asking, because I knew their heart, because I had those conversations. I had a relationship. Had the first time I'd been in their home was to ask, would you give to this? I might have gotten some money, but there would have been that sense of, yeah, he's really more interested in our money than he is us. So focus these conversations on building relationship, and that sets the groundwork for doing an ask. So here are some starter questions that you can just use from time to time. Who taught you about generosity? What keeps you up at night? A lot of times people think, well, if you've got a lot of money, you've got an easy life. You can do whatever you want. You can travel. But there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of burden that comes with wealth. And this is an opportunity for you to be a pastor to these folks. Find out, what keeps you up at night, and what are your struggles with wealth or with business. And, they may have lots of employees that they're overseeing. So this is a good pastoral question. What shapes your giving? Why are you generous? What gift has given you the most satisfaction? You will learn a lot about their heart with that question. A great question would be, where are you giving now and why? That's also going to give you lots of insight. And you'll find out information about their passions and about why they're giving. And you will hear about relationships and vision of that organization. And you also may hear, they're giving a lot more elsewhere than they are to you. So you got to be ready for that. In case that were to arise. But this is a chance to help cultivate that. How's your faith impacted your giving? What are your thoughts about our plans and visions? So again, we're not only going to have conversations to ask people to give money, we're doing a lot more to build relationship out of which we can do an ask. So those are some guidelines for high capacity donors. Your financial leaders, the 20% that does and gives the 80%. These people will represent 40 to 50% of your giving units. So just go to your giving list and look for that group, and that's going to be your financial leaders. They're typically going to be 5 to 10% of your giving families. Typically, they are highly engaged. These are the folks who are on your committees, who are serving, who are in worship as almost every Sunday, who are the people you turn to for advice or to gain support. They are your influencers. They may not have high capacity because they may be people who give out of a real spiritual discipline that they tithe, and that's been a part of their life. I see many pastors here where they're number 5 or number 8 on the giving list, and yet they don't have capacity or don't have deep pockets to give other gifts, but they're faithful with what they do have. But these would be kind of what you'll be looking for with your financial leaders. Well, you can't go have a one-on-one conversation with all of your financial leaders once a month. So this is a group that you can just bring together 2 or 3 times a year. And When you bring them together on a Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon, and night during the week, let them know you are the financial leaders of the church. You are the ones that are really helping to this church to grow in its ministry and life. And it's a chance for you to do these things. Could be an agenda for you to express gratitude, to thank them for their giving, their generosity. Always share a life story of a change and a specific story of the life that's been impacted by what your church is doing. Cast vision where you see the church in the next year or the next 5 years. Share your major plans here. You don't want these people to hear about a major initiative or major project when the whole congregation hears it in some announcement on Sunday morning or a letter that goes out to everybody on the same day. These are people who need to hear your plans first and be a part of that. People are more willing to invest in what they help to create. So if you get their input early on, you are getting buy-in, building support, and that will help whatever initiative or plan that you have to be more successful. The many, so this would be the 80% that does and gives the 20. These people may not be giving systematically. These are the ones who, when they're in church, they'll give something, and kind of depends on what they have on them. They're not as engaged in the church. Some of them may be on your committees, but they may not attend all the meetings. They don't want one-on-one conversations, so don't go to their house and set up an hour-long visit with them about giving. They're not going to be open to that. But we need to be intentional, because this is a group that really has a great potential to grow in giving and financial support to the church. So how do you do that with the many? Well, that's 80% of your people, right? So here are some suggestions. It's going to be done in much more general ways, through sermons, through worship, and talking about money. The focus is not on, hey, we need more money and can you give more because we've got bills to pay, but just teaching those biblical principles. And you can do references to generosity throughout the year without it being, quote, the annual stewardship sermon or the money sermon, but just really taking opportunity to teach that. Share stories. We're going to talk about that more in a couple of moments. Through Offering Talks website, a year-end report that's not a financial report, but an impact report. How many people have joined the church? How many baptisms? How many new disciples have been made? What missions have you done? How many have been involved in hands-on missions? So you want to show impact. Financial Peace University, or some kind of way to help people with budgeting. There are a lot of people who are struggling pre-COVID, during COVID, after COVID, who are having trouble paying their bills. They have too much debt, and that impacts their ability to be generous. So if we can help them to get their financial lives in order, we're creating more opportunity for generosity, but more opportunity for their lives to be richer and to be more full, and for them to be faithful to what God's calling them to do. Annual campaigns are an opportunity to connect with the many by inviting them to begin giving and to make a commitment and be a part of that. And again, express gratitude. Anytime you're in a conversation, expressing gratitude should be always a part of that conversation. So let's move to another discipline, and that is telling your story. I believe that sharing a story of a life change, of an impact, can do more than any other one single thing that you can do. A good story is one that shares facts and impact. It connects with the mind and with the heart. I would say that most of the stories I hear in churches, and I hear a lot of stories, they do a great job with the facts, and they say what the church is doing. We could do a better job many times, though, from my experience of listening to them, of sharing the impact. So let me share an example. Today, we want to celebrate our partnership with Fremont School. Fremont's where I went to elementary school in Springfield, Missouri. So I'll use that one. And we gave 250 backpacks at the beginning of the school year. Once a quarter, we take snacks to the teacher's lounge, and We say thank you to the teachers for what they're doing to teach the children in our community. And we have 30 people who are involved in a mentoring program that help the children of that school to read. Because we know that if a child is not reading at third grade level at the end of third grade, that statistically they are significantly more likely to drop out of school, to be dealing with drug and alcohol abuse, to be in prison, and to have a not successful life. So it is so critical. And so we're thankful to all of our mentors. Now, you've gotten a lot of facts there. Now, here's the story that can go on. Betty is mentoring a third grader there at Fremont School. When she first met Billy, he was reading at the beginning of the first grade level, and he was in third grade. The teacher told her that Billy was acting up in class. She was sending him to the principal's office a lot. And when she first started working with him, he just didn't want to pay attention. And it was hard. But, she would, bring him a snack and they would talk, and she got to know him. And he started trying to read. And by Thanksgiving, he was reading at first grade level. And in February, he was getting better. And, Betty believes that by the end of the school year, he's going to be at third grade level. Billy's going to have a better life. And his teacher says that he's acting better in class. She hasn't sent him to the principal's office in 6 weeks. And that's because of Betty. And Betty's making a difference in Billy's life. And you as a church are making a difference. So that's the kind of story we want to share. Not just facts about what we are doing, but how what we are doing is changing a single life. If you ever watch a commercial from Jude Hospital in Memphis, they'll do a 30-minute commercial. And all they will do is tell you one story of one child that they changed their life of. And then they won't even ask for money, but in the very end, they'll say, thank you for giving to St. Jude's Hospital. People, they bring their checkbooks out and they're going online to give. So sharing those stories, share a story in every conversation, whether it's with the one, with the few, with the many. Just get into that routine of always looking for stories to share. If you have a staff, at every staff meeting, say to them, I want you to come and share a story of something that's happening in your ministry when you come to staff meeting. So make this an expectation of your staff. Another discipline is making the ask. Certainly there will be times when you will be asking people to give. With high capacity donors, they often say they don't give more because they are not asked to give. When you make a general plea for a general item, they don't see that as being directed at them. They see that as for everybody else because they're accustomed to people asking them personally. Share the vision. You always have to be ready to answer the question, why give to me? Why give to the church? Why give to this ministry? And remember, keep this at the very core in that theology of stewardship and generosity of why are you doing this? Because this is a chance to grow their discipleship and to invite them to impact the lives of others. And so one thing that really helped me when I was doing capital campaigns in churches and I was wrestling with how do I go ask people to give money, was when my consultant said to me, you're not asking them to give money to you. You're asking them to give money to the church to change the lives of other people. That one statement helped me to get over that hurdle and begin to become comfortable with having those conversations, seeing it from a spiritual perspective, and that it's not about me. On the next slide is measuring effectiveness. Donor analytics are becoming more and more common in churches today, and looking at your trends, and it's a way to help identify your first-time givers. So when someone gives to you for the very first time, what's your strategy? What are you doing to cultivate that giving? That very first gift is a key opportunity that, if not attended to, will be missed. And you may never get that person engaged or engaged to a level of their capacity if you don't have a good strategy in the beginning. And then continuing the conversation. When someone's giving increases, or they give a one-time gift, or when their giving decreases significantly, there's a reason. That is a pastoral conversation. You don't need to call someone and say, hey, I see you dropped a big check in the offering plate on Sunday, or hey, you haven't given a long time, what's going on? Just say, hey, just calling and check in with you. and you will usually find out what's going on. So analytics can be a great way to help identify first-time givers when people start increasing or giving special gifts or decreasing. So those analytics can be really helpful. So I know this has been a fire hose. This could have been a 3-hour conversation for me, but let's open up with questions. And I know you've been doing some questions in chat. So Sarah, you or Joanna or Dustin?
I have one question, Dustin. What happens if you have high capacity donors who are not regularly giving to the life of the congregation? They would be within that the minis group of folk. What are the ways to engage them, or do you not advocate for that until they've kind of grown in their giving? What are your thoughts about those situations?
Those are people that I want to get to know, and I want to build those relationships. And I'm not going to go there and ask for money on my first visit. I just want to get to know them, and those suggestions that I made earlier of just finding out about their lives, and because they are probably giving elsewhere. And occasionally may find someone who's not, but that's also good information to discover. They may not just be generous people, but generally they are giving to other organizations, and they want to be known. So if they don't know you and you don't know them, that is going to have a negative impact on their willingness to become givers. So I would focus on just building a relationship without doing an ask until such point that relationship gets to where it becomes an appropriate conversation.
One of the practices I did when I started making one-on-one visits is I didn't know necessarily who all the high capacity givers were. So I'm curious if you have ideas of how to learn that information. What I ended up doing is I just started with the lead giving families for the congregation and began there with the expectation that I'll start with those that have already faithfully giving strong, and then grow from that. But I'm curious of your thoughts.
So other things that can be done is when you're talking to those who are your stronger givers, your high capacity givers, ask them, do you know of anyone else that I should be having conversations with? And they may know of some people who maybe have been very frugal with their finances, but have developed great wealth that may not be known otherwise. In capital campaigns, we're doing wealth search, where we are using the services of an organization that uses public information to identify high capacity donors. So when you're doing a capital campaign, and we find that has benefit also for just general giving, when you discover things about people that you did not know before that could appear on your list. And then just looking at people's occupations and lifestyle, that they may not be givers, but when I look at the trips they're taking during the year and the house they live in, the car they're driving, that would suggest that they would have some level of capacity.
We do have a question that's come through the chat box, Dustin. As we begin asking for our endowment program, is the strategy the same, or is there a different nuance?
When you're talking about endowment, you want to be able to be ready to talk to them about how that endowment is going to be used, and talk about what you talk about tithing in life, that let's tithe as we look at our resources at the end of life, and be able to cast a vision for the endowment and what the purpose of the endowment is. It's more than just money. They want to know, is this a way, how will my money be used? And so it's a great opportunity to talk about how their dollars can live beyond them. And the church may have specific funds that they can designate their giving to. Some churches have undesignated accounts. So some of them, this is money goes to missions or to emerging ministries or to building maintenance. Find out what their passions are and what they'd be interested in, and how they would want their money be used through an endowment gift. And not only talk about wills, but there are other ways to make gifts to an endowment through life insurance policies and annuities. And I have a family in a church right now that made a very significant gift to the endowment, and not tied to their estate, obviously. So, but having those conversations early uh, is important. People begin doing their wills in their 40s and 50s, but we often think, no, well, let's go talk to people when they're 80. Well, by then they may have already made their plans, or their families are involved in those decisions. So, looking at key points of life when a child is born, when a child's getting married, or a grandkid being born, those are kind of key moments in life when people are thinking about long-term decisions like that. So those are good opportunities to have those conversations. And of course, always call Dustin and the other Dustin and get guidance on endowments.
I have another comment that has come through, or an observation that someone made. Knowing who the givers are is a relatively new thing for me based on our training from Horizons a few years ago. And an interesting observation for me is that those I imagined who were generous were not. And some who told me that they were strong donors really were a long way down on the donor list.
That's the value of knowing your giver list. I've had people where they have resources. So the assumption is they must be strong givers because they have deep pockets. And so that can be used as power and leverage that can be not healthy for a church, because we kind of make those assumptions and let them use the power that comes with money sometimes. But when you know that they're not givers, then I don't need to get sucked into that. But you also find out that you have people who are strong givers who don't have a lot of money, but they're tithers. And when I'm looking at who I want leading my church, I'd much rather have someone who's tithing off of a $30,000 income than someone who's giving the same amount whose income is 20 times higher. Because giving is a spiritual discipline, and you're looking at their heart. And so that's the key reason to know the giving list, so that you can identify leaders. And it also helps to release you from all the assumptions that we make about people's giving and how they can use that as power.
Okay. Another question. When you initiate the conversation with high givers, do you share you are inviting conversation because they are committed givers?
Again, that they may or may not be. But my approach would be, I would like to set up an appointment to just come and visit with you. I'd like to get to know you better, and just to connect with you and just talk about you and talk about the church. Would there be a time when we could visit? Remember that these are people who typically want to be known. They want a relationship with any organization that they support. So I think you'll find people very receptive to just saying, hey, I'd love to meet with you, setting up that time. So you don't need to go with an all-out agenda. Such as said, just love to set up a time to get to know you and visit some.
Okay.
When you do engage with an ask, I suspect that in different situations, your response is different, but do you often give a specific dollar amount? I would think for a capital campaign, and it's a lead giving family, possibly you might say, we're looking for, 3 families to give, $300,000 or whatever it is. But if you're talking with a family about annual gifts or estate gifts, do you sometimes use actual specific amounts, or when you make an ask, it's more proportional to the resources that they have, a tithe or a child's worth if it's an estate gift or something?
Yeah, key is your confidence and knowledge about their capacity. If I have someone with deep capacity, I don't mind asking for more, because they're not going to get upset or angry with me if they can't do that. because I don't want to ask too low. But for capital campaigns, you're right that we often do ask for a specific gift of those who are in. We'd be looking for those top lead gifts. So when there's more uncertainty about capacity, then it may be more general. In a capital campaign, would you be willing to consider a gift between $50,000 and $100,000? And again, they're not going to get mad at me if they can't do that. They'll be honored. Gee, I'm glad you thought we could do that. And yes, we can, or no, we can't. But it opens doors when you at least ask for a range instead of would you just give something. Giving a range helps to raise sights and to give them a sense of what might be expected of them or asked of them. And for an endowment, that can vary also with the family on a lot of times, we would have done a wealth search on them and we'd have a sense of what their capacity could be. But talking with them, and I think for them, a lot of times it's talking about different ways to give, that it's not just about wills. People have trust a lot, they have a lot of capacities. And so it's offering them options and ways to give, and just really starting a conversation. It takes, as you know, Dustin, a long time between an initial conversation for inviting someone to consider a gift to an endowment and getting that gift. A capital campaign, you're getting that maybe the same day or in a few days or a few short weeks. It can take 2 or 3 years or longer to get an endowment gift. So you're really wanting to start that conversation to get it going, and then follow their lead, and they're going to be getting their financial advisors involved and looking at options. But sharing a vision of what you would, of how they would want that money used would be a key part of that conversation.
We don't have any other questions in the chat box. Are there any other questions or comments before we close? Well, Dustin, we are so incredibly grateful for you. Thank you so much for being with us today and your time, and for the valuable information that you've shared with us. We're so appreciative. We're thankful to each of you for attending and spending time with us today, and time in your busy schedule. We appreciate you. I'd like to share with you briefly our next webinar. We will not have a webinar through our Learn and Grow series in June, but our next webinar will be scheduled on July 13th, also at 10 a.m., and the topic will be on capital campaigns, loans, and building programs with David McCaskill from the Wesleyan Investive Group. And so you can be watching for more information on that on our website and social media. Thank you again, Dustin. Thank you to each of you who have spent time with us today. We hope you've enjoyed your time with us, and thank you so much. Blessings on your day.